Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my stories and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to them live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. on Twitch. And if you're looking for a way to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we're doing chapter 37 of A Familiar Death. Marlot watched Trembor's back as he got smaller, unable to believe his lion was just leaving him. Wait, is that the right chapter? Yep, it is. Sorry about that. It couldn't be this bad. He was overreacting, that was all. He got in the car and drove until it was next to him, slowing to pace his lion. Come on, Trem, he said through the open window. Be reasonable. I said I was sorry. Trevor didn't even look his way. Are you really going to let the killer get away with this? Is that what you want? It's our job to see to it he pays for his kill. No reaction. Trem, the guy caused the ship to miscarry. He orchestrated the attack on her so she'd lose the baby. Isn't that something that should make you want to go for his throat? His lion finally stopped moving. Mallow stopped the car and waited. Tremor didn't look in the car or at him. He continued facing forward. Since you're implying you're doing this to bring the killer to justice, tell me this. Do you really think there's going to be anything proving who killed the medic in those files you're so set on getting your claws in? Mallow tried to say there would be. There had to be something. There isn't going to be anything, and you know it. The only thing that hacker can substantiate is that he destroyed species identification tests. You think that's all I want? Marlot yelled. You think I don't want to get the guy for tax evasion, force him to pay? Better yet, have him sent to the work camps? This isn't a story, Trem. We don't get to always catch the bad guy. This is one of those times you aim to hunt a stag and you end up having to eat a mouse. I'm going to bring him down, Trem. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to bring him down. All I have to do is find some evidence he slept with her, and the town's going to destroy him for me. Tremor looked in the car then, his eyes cold and angry. This is what it's really about, isn't it? You want to be right at all cost. You want to be the one controlling things. Trem, be reasonable, that isn't. Tremor let out a bark of mirthless laughter. Me? Be reasonable? Listen to yourself. You threaten me. You go for emotional blackmail, and now you're trying to make me out to be the one who won't see reason. Trem, I'm sorry. You know this place brings out the worst in me. I just want to finish this, shake this place from my fur forever. You think I don't see what you're doing? Well, I'm not going through this again. I'm cutting this before you do anything worse to me. I'm leaving. I'm getting as far from you as I can. Trem, don't. Don't even think about saying something we both know is a lie. I hope you get your mail. I hope you make him suffer as much as you think he deserves. And after that, I hope you take a good look at yourself, Marlot Blackclaw, and don't be surprised when it's your father that looks back at you. He straightened and began walking again. Marlot couldn't find the words to call after his lion, his lover. He felt like getting out of the car, running after him and screaming, but that wasn't him. It was his father, yelling and threatening until he buckled under the pressure. He wasn't like that. Tremor was wrong. He wrenched his gaze away from the lion's back and looked at the paper in his hand. He was wrong. Mallow was nothing like his father. Killis would have destroyed this information rather than risk upsetting the council. Oh, his father had no problem ostracizing his own son for being different, but he'd never even think of doing that to a member of the council. Marlot was nothing like him. He slammed the door as he entered the medical clinic, and Arana came out of Naego's office. She took one look at him and got out of the way without asking questions. Marlot wasn't sure if he'd be able to keep himself from ripping her throat out if she talked to him. He wanted to hurt someone. He remembered killing Kristen, running at him, sinking his teeth in his throat. He remembered the taste of the blood running down his mouth. It hadn't felt like any of the hunts he'd been on before. It had been primal. It hadn't been about feeding himself. He had avenged his lover. So he so wanted to feel that again, that sense of rightness, but he didn't know who he was angry at. Trembor for abandoning him, Fernian for setting up for setting all of this in motion, or is this whole town for just existing. He threw his anger at the server Valoran had in the files on, decimating the protection on it and retrieving the files. Of course, there were no names on them. None of them said Fernian killed Naego. It couldn't be that easy. He wouldn't be able to show Trembor this had been the right call to make. Even if Valoran had met with Fernian face to face, he wouldn't have written that anywhere. And if he had, it wouldn't have been enough anyway. There was nothing wrong with people in town meeting up and doing business. And if one file said Fernian had killed Naego, then what? It would have been the word of a hacker against a respected councilor. Everyone would side with Fernian. The one thing Valoran had documented were the payments. Not only the amounts and what he'd done, but the account they'd been from. And if he could link the accounts to Fernian, he would at least have proof the tiger was involved. 8 payments over 4 years, all from the same account. 2 most recent ones were to destroy the sample and related material sent to Arcego. By the dates, they could have been the sample Naego sent, and then the one he and Trembor had brought to them. The 6 other were for attacks on surveillance database. Had Fernian been stupid enough to have sex with Lamia someplace they could be recorded? If not that, then what then? 6 times. Those could be the 6 times Fernian had noticed the cameras. Might he have missed some? Nay, Marlot didn't believe the tiger had only had sex with the sheep 6 times, so there had to be. He decided to start by looking for video evidence. Just proving he had paid to have recordings destroyed wouldn't be enough. He let his anger fuel his search, his frustration at having been forced back here, at having his sister attack him, his father trying to kill him, his lion walking out on him for... His finger faltered. He looked at the screen, at the code to the town central server database, but what he saw was the pain in his lion's eyes looking up from his pad. He'd caused that. He'd hurt his lion. He'd picked lashing out at this town over his lover. What had he done? He grabbed his pad and entered Trem's number. He'd apologize to him, beg his forgiveness. He'd hand over the information to Aruna and leave to return his lion. Tremor had been right. Why hadn't he seen it before? It was just a body and not even his body anymore. Having it in a freezer for years to come wouldn't affect his productivity rating. Not that this was what it had been about anymore. No. As soon as he'd apologized, he'd go pick up his lion and they'd go home together. The call didn't go through. It wasn't Trembor's pad being locked, like he did for his family when he was working. A message played to let the caller know why he wasn't answering. Trembor had blocked him. His lion had blocked him out of his life. Marlot almost dropped his pad, felt it slip through his hand, and caught it at the last moment. He hadn't known the absence of someone could hurt this much. Anger flared underneath the pain, but it couldn't eclipse it. It highlighted it, because he was angry at himself. He'd caused this. He had no one to blame but himself. He had caused the love of his life to leave him. He reached to turn the computer off, but hesitated. What else did he have left? If he didn't finish this, he would have lost Trembor for nothing. Or would his lion take him back if he left now? Marlot snorted. He certainly wouldn't take him back. He certainly wouldn't take himself back. Not after what he'd done. So why would Trembor? He dried his eyes and set back to work. If nothing else, he was going to come out of this with one victory. It would be hollow, but he wouldn't be beaten by this place. He was going to make Fernian pay and then go home alone. And this concludes chapter 37 of A Familiar Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the story as well as the others in the series, they are up on Available on all major e-retailers. If you want a different way to support me, that's on my Patreon, where you can get access to just about everything else I've written. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time. The links are in the notes, and with that, I shall wish you a good day.